aspiring wannabe mayor?
Hey,
I
I don't
told
want to
you.
give anybody.
Talk
any
me out of
ideas.
it. I'm talking 10 years down the road. You still going to be doing this in 10 years?
Hi, and welcome to the Building a Business podcast, powered by the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. We are here recording in the Charleston Radio Group studios, who are huge supporters of the Chamber. Thank you to everyone here for recording us today. I am your immediate past president of the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce, and I am also the marketing director at Mount Pleasant Town Center. And one of my favorite co-hosts is here with me today.
Oh, hey,
I
favorite.
know,
Oh,
favorite.
wow. That's nice of you to say.
He didn't know. See, he was really taken by surprise, but it is true. Please welcome Mike Compton. Mike is the president of Roomba Advertising and is the current marketing chair for the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce.
You just keep asking me back for another year of marketing. And it's so much fun, though, to
Well,
market.
you know why?
to
Because you
Mount
just keep
Pleasant.
doing everything so well. We just don't let you go.
Oh, my gosh. I am not paying you a dime. Kathy.
Not a dime.
Not a dime.
Not a dime.
Thank you very much. You're very sweet. Today, we need to update your script because the Charleston Radio Group is now called the Charleston Media Solutions.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we know.
Well, the sign outside says Charleston Radio
They've
Group.
got
So
some branding work to do.
Yes,
as a
okay,
marketing
good to know,
head.
good
As
to
a
know.
marketing head yourself.
Yes.
You
takes time.
Yes.
It takes time.
Today we have a guest, a recurring guest. We like to have this guest on a lot because he's such a good conversation and he does so much for our community. Mayor Will Haynie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. Good to be here.
Yes.
You know, I'm having flashbacks 20-something years ago.
Okay.
Up in North Carolina where Hurricane Helene did its damage. I had a morning talk radio show.
Hey.
And I'm used to that, Mike, going live at 6 a.m.,
Ooh.
which means you started your show prep at 4 a.m., and boy, it was a long stretch till 10 a.m.
You're a marketing head too. You own a
Yeah.
public relations company, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
Yeah. I got away from marketing and more into like strategic communications.
Okay.
After I became mayor, and but that's another topic for another day.
Whatever.
You're asking me about mayor.
I want to hear about you.
It's technically a part-time job, and
Okay.
it's part-time pay, but it is a full-time job.
What do you mean? So Kathy was telling me this in the green room earlier. It's part-time. That's mind-boggling to me right now. I'm sorry.
Well,
Help me out.
It's there are three kinds of government allowed in the state of South Carolina.
Okay.
One is what's called in slang strong mayor or mayor council, where the mayor runs the town. Everybody reports to the mayor. That's Charleston, North Charleston, Goose Creek, and maybe Folly Beach. I think Folly Beach. So there's no rhyme or reason as to who has which form of government.
Interesting.
But like Mayor Riley and Mayor Summey, they ran the town and everybody reported to them. We have the middle form, which is called the council form of government. Okay. So the council and the mayor, I'm just one voting member of council. Now, yes, I have to sign the bonds and I have to sign the ordinances and I have to give the state of the town address. But I don't set the budget, I don't hire and fire staff, and I can't direct staff. So when Mr. Compton calls and says, hey, my trash didn't get picked up this morning.
I would never. But
Will you send? Well, there's nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't happen in Mount Pleasant often, by the way. But if you
it did last week.
Right. There you go. During the snow. I, as an elected official and council members, we don't call the head of that department and say, go pick up the Compton's trash.
Okay.
We get in touch with their boss, the town administrator, who is a trained professional and a very good one, Eric DeMora, and he has to direct his staff to do that.
Got it.
If you're in Charleston or North Charleston, I'm ratting on my friends
okay.
William Coxwell and
This
Reggie
is
Burgess.
education.
You
Yeah,
can
I'm
call.
learning.
You can call them, and they can say, "Hey, this is the mayor. Go get the Compton's trash." It's a different form of government, and we have to abide by the law. And the reason I'm bringing that up is lots of people have moved here recently.
Yes.
And they're from places where if the mayor wants your trash picked up, the mayor gets on the phone and says, go pick up their trash.
Call away.
They are not used to our form of government. And, why don't you change this traffic intersection? Why don't you do it? Because the mayor does not have that authority.
But they still bother you in the supermarket.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bother, but
talk to you.
When you're the mayor in Mount Pleasant, you are always working. There's no place to hide, restaurants and stuff. And I'm not saying that people are a problem at all, but I bet you if I asked today at whatever time it is that we are filming this, what is your state legislature voting on today? What are they voting on in Congress or the United States Senate today? I bet you don't know. Everybody knows what we're voting on,
Exactly.
when we do things.
Exactly. Yep.
And if you're out in town, they want to talk about it, and it's their right to talk about it. Now, there are times when I have to say, here's my card, call me at the office because I'm on my way to an obligation or something.
Yeah.
And that's not a bother, but that is a reality.
Wow.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Well, you're a public figure. People are gonna. They don't know that
Yeah.
this is this is how we run the show here.
Exactly.
They don't know that you can't just make a phone call.
Right.
Which is interesting to me because I am from the north as well.
Right.
I'm a Cumya.
No.
Okay. I know you are as well. I know Kathy is, but you had
I wasn't
relatives
born here. I
Yeah.
wasn't born here.
You were born here, but
My great grandparents are from here, but I was born in the upstate after they moved up there.
That's close
Interesting.
enough for me, man.
Interesting.
That's close
I'm not
enough.
from here.
Exactly. Well, you can know more about that in our last episode that we had with you last
Yes.
year, Mayor. But where you said to people like myself, I'm from Detroit, but I lived in Tampa for 18 years.
Wow.
I moved up, so I'm like halfway up. Where are you seeing a lot of people moving from?
We kind of track that stuff and everything.
I don't need that. I don't need real data. Just like where do you think?
Well, what I see is the most in-migration to these areas is actually Georgia, North Carolina. Now everybody says Ohio, New York, and
New
all
Jersey,
that, but
right.
that's not right.
Right.
But that's not necessarily
That's
the,
what I was
the,
looking
the
for.
most. It's not.
So we're getting a bad rap again.
Oh, I know. I know.
Your personalities are just so big. It's enough for two senses of two people.
That's right.
I'm kidding. I'm only kidding.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh. What? So cool.
Well,
Kathy, what do you got? Help me out.
so we launched the podcast last year
Yes.
with our episode with the mayor,
Correct.
That's right.
right?
And
so
about the same date today.
around-ish,
Yeah.
right? So we're really excited to have you back.
Thank you.
And I know this is a really horrible general question, but in honesty, I mean, let's talk about what's changed in a year.
There you go.
Wow.
You know, and I know we don't have to go over everything because obviously the town is growing and there's so many different things going on. But if you had to pick one or two things that have really changed obviously in a positive way, is what we want to focus on in the last year.
Top of mind. No
Yeah,
stats.
yeah,
No
top of
data.
mind.
Two things. Two things. We have been recognized in the last year for some of our most important things that we do as a town for the betterment of the town now and in the future. One is we received a statewide award for excellence in conservation leadership. And by conservation, I mean not only taking care of green space and taking care of natural resources, but planning for resilience, which is, conservation and resilience go hand in hand. If you don't believe me, look at California, right, where the wildfires were.
Right.
A little management and a little thinking about resilience. So we got a statewide award for that. We got a statewide award from the Municipal Association of South Carolina because we were the only municipality in the state to have a reduction in opioid-related deaths and overdoses.
Wow, well, that's something to
and
be
that
pretty proud of.
reduction was 40%.
Wow.
That's huge.
40%.
40%. And that's because we have a partnership with Wake Up Carolina, which Nancy Shipman started. She's a homegrown Mount Pleasant person, lost a son to an opioid overdose years ago and turned ashes into beauty. And so we have a partnership there because if you have somebody in your family struggling with addiction, do you want to call the police or do you want to call a nonprofit that comes alongside and says, let us help you?
Let us help you, of course.
And as Carl Ritchie, who's now the sheriff, said, and he started this partnership we have, we cannot arrest our way. This is Carl Ritchie's words. We cannot arrest our way out of an addiction crisis. It takes more to cure addiction.
Well, just
than the
arresting
law.
people and
Right.
throwing them in jail is not going to have any effect on the problem.
No. And so we got
Wake
those.
up.
Wake Up Carolina.
Wake Up Carolina.
Yes, and they are homegrown Mount Pleasant. So I could go into all those details. The other thing, and this is a little wonky, but it is huge, is that every 10 years by law we have to have a new comprehensive plan, and that is how Mount Pleasant will be used, both developed, undeveloped green space, and redeveloped properties. How those can be used in the future to make our community good, and that's and that has to be translated into zoning. That is a use, that is sort of like a big picture, and zoning is this parcel has AB zoning or residential or mixed use or whatever.
Right.
So I know it's down to the wonky stuff. You have to hire an outside law firm. It took us 2 years, and we just passed that new zoning.
Nice.
So now we have on the map, you know what your zoning is, what can go here. And we also, in the past year, included for mixed use a requirement for attainable housing.
I was going to say,
Okay.
I heard about
yes,
that.
you heard about that.
There's
That's
a
a bullet
there's a
point there.
minimum
Yes.
or mandatory minimum, I
Right.
should say,
Exactly.
of
For
attainable
attainable
housing.
housing.
Correct.
And this is why. In my 10 years, I got elected to council in 2015 and mayor in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
In my 10 years, I have seen the attainable housing thing going from being perceived as a very nice social agenda
Right.
to a strategic economic goal of both the town and the region. And I sit on all the regional economic things, because if you can't afford to live in this town, and y'all have lots of employees at town center and all that, and as we do at the town, and the median house price is over $880,000, where's your workforce going to come from?
Right. Exactly.
And the old term was workforce housing, and people thought, oh, no, there goes the neighborhood, right?
Well, I think they still think that about attainable housing
do.
too, and that's what
That's the
concerns and
problem.
scares me.
Yes.
Attainable housing,
It's just that.
It's for the everyday person.
Exactly.
It's for my kids if they wanted to
Yes.
live here.
And
you know?
police and fire
firemen,
and
our
school teachers and
everyone
nurses.
we need
Yes.
to make this town the awesome town that it is to live in. They can't afford to live here.
Right.
So that is what attainable housing is, everybody. It is,
Yeah.
we need it to survive.
It is not the projects like you see coming in on the interstate in other municipalities.
Right.
It is built to the same standards, the same quality. And I'm glad that during my term as mayor so far that we've had one new attainable housing that was sort of like the breakthrough done. And now we have permitted another 100 units. And,
Nice.
and we're working on Greenville is the model in South Carolina.
yeah.
And Greenville didn't go out and just build it. Now, they do put money from their budget in it. But what Greenville did is when the developments came in, they said, okay, you would do this, and you can't do it. It's called inclusionary zoning. You can't say, we'll give you the zoning. You have to have a planned development, okay? So you got some mixed use and you got some residential, but we want 20% or 25% attainable in there, and it has revitalized downtown Greenville. So, I think we've started a little water over the dam, and I'm in the last year of my second term, and I want to make sure we keep this progress going. Because how old do you have to be, even if you're a doctor or a lawyer, if you're graduating from high school now in Mount Pleasant, how old do you think you're going to be before you can afford the median home price in this town? You're probably going to be well into your 40s, and that's sad.
we're
for sure.
losing amazing
Talent.
Yes.
because they
Yes.
literally cannot afford to live here, and they don't want to do the drive or whatever it might
Right.
be. So they're taking their talents and they're moving out of state or moving back home or
Right.
moving somewhere new.
Right.
And I find it's a shame.
It is.
Well, you're working on it though.
We're working
Well,
on
of
it. We're
course.
getting there. Well, we don't have areas like Charleston and North Charleston have, and I won't call any of this easy, but they've got places where they can put a few hundred units, and it's not overcrowding schools or roads or anything.
Yeah.
We don't have that in Mount Pleasant.
Right.
And we also know if we pooled our money regionally, which could make sense, we know that the dirt is so expensive in Mount Pleasant that the regional they're not going to buy the land in Mount Pleasant and build it. So our way and our vision in the comp plan in this zoning is there are shopping centers, retail places they're at the end of their useful life.
Okay.
They're going to be redeveloped, and we would like to see mixed use where you have retail on the bottom, a moderate amount of residential on top, and that's where that requirement kicks in. And
I
I
like
think
that.
everybody
I
can
like
be
that. I like that
happy
too,
with
Mr. Mayor.
that. That's downtown Charleston. I'm not talking about the big high stuff. I'm
right.
talking about a story or two.
Right.
That's all I'm
That's
asking
perfect,
for.
yeah.
Mayor. That's all I'm asking for. It's what I think we're missing here in this beautiful town city. But we'll talk about that later. Is something over 2 stories.
That's right.
Can we? I
That's
understand why we keep things low here in the Holy City,
Right.
But are we over there? Do we have to over here too in Mount Pleasant side? Do we have a height
we
restriction?
We do, and we redid those a couple of years ago, and I think we got a good
So what is
model.
it now?
We have up to 80 feet in some places, like where East Cooper Hospital is,
Okay.
because it's already 80 feet. You wouldn't notice it there. But if you tried to put 80 feet at town center, you're going to get a lot of resident pushback.
Right.
And so on our height maps, most of it is 50, some of it is 55.
Okay.
Most of it on the street is only 35.
What does that equate to story-wise, Mayor? Help me out with the math here.
2 stories, like right on a corridor.
Copy that.
So that we don't have the concrete canyon. You're driving down, you go, where's the sun?
I love the height restrictions.
Yes.
That's one of the things I love about this town.
Yeah.
I know.
Is the height restrictions.
I know.
But what we did,
no digital billboards, but that's a whole
right.
And
what we were able to get for the tall ones is on the street, you're one level, and then it's called the wedding cake design, and then you go back and you might have 2, and then 3, 4 to 5 here.
Okay.
So I can tell you, there's one very famous tract of land in Mount Pleasant. It's been vacant for years and years, and it's getting ready to be built on. What you see on the street will be one height, and then there'll be another story. And the tallest portion they're allowed, which is up to 65 feet, is so far in, it will not feel like a 65-foot, 5 or 6 story building.
Sure.
That's the way a well-designed municipality does it. And it passed, and that's what we did.
See, I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
Good way of thinking there. You mentioned something about things that are being expensive in the town of Mount Pleasant. And correct me if I'm wrong, but can you own chickens?
Did you see my post on Facebook the other day? Apparently, there is a law that goes way back that in Mount Pleasant, you are allowed 5 laying hens in your yard, but no roosters because they crow and disturb the neighbors.
Hens only.
And but good luck with your HOA. And I will double check and make sure that the interpretation I got of that law is still valid.
Yeah.
But now that eggs are
right?
$187 a dozen or whatever as we speak, because of the bird flu and stuff.
Yeah.
Don't we all wish we had 5 laying hens in our yard? I would do it if I could do it. I checked with my HOA this week. And they said, no, we can't allow you to have
my HOA neither as well.
Well, I certainly didn't check with mine, but I'm going to have to assume they'd say no, too.
Dunes West?
Yes.
Probably not.
Yeah.
They don't allow golf carts there. They're not going to allow chickens.
No,
maybe.
Yeah.
Anyways, thought that was a fun question.
Certainly is.
Was it real when I heard, I hear a lot of things, right? That you limited the amount of new permits being able to build in the mountain.
Oh yeah, we did that years ago.
I love that.
And we did it. We didn't just say we don't like people who are moving here. We don't like growth, whatever. We looked at our police calls for service, our fire calls for service. We looked at our school populations and everything, and we took the data and backed into what we thought was a sustainable growth rate. And so we effectively cut the growth rate in half.
Okay. Much
less, we did not like the distinction of being the Wild West of the East. We were the fastest growing municipality east of the Mississippi River. And I kind of got elected mayor on the we will slow growth down. And that is called the building permit allocation system is still in effect. And so it limits the number of multifamily that can be built a year and the number of new construction. Now, it does not apply. If you have a house and you want to tear it down, there was a house there, and there's one house there when you're done.
Yeah.
But this is for new residences in town. So because
great.
you can't just you know somebody's got to provide police, fire, manage traffic, and build new schools, and you can't just let every developer come in and say we're doing 500 homes here.
I feel like that's what happened though in like 2003, 2005. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's when my neighborhood was built, and there's hundreds of people back there.
Yes.
Yep.
Houses and whatnot, families.
Well, then also, they built an open Lucy Beckham because there was too many students at Wando, and then Lucy Beckham's already full.
It's full.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have 2 high schools in this town, and they're both full.
And the phenomenon of that was they planned right for the growth and the in-migration. What they did not expect was the family, because Lucy Beckham is such a good school.
Yes.
Great school thanks to Anna Dassing's leadership. We're blessed with great school leadership in this town.
Well, CCSD is amazing to work. They're incredible.
We're trying to land
Coker at Wando is fantastic. And so what they did not count on was a number of families that took their kids out of private schools and out of magnet schools to go to Beckham. And that's why it reached capacity.
I wouldn't have counted on that.
Nobody did. They nailed the number of new move into town. But they realized, man, people are leaving the magnet schools and going to Beckham. But aren't we blessed to have these
100%. That's why,
and to have choices.
Exactly.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
I see so many posts on I follow too many things on Facebook about Charleston, but a couple of posts about I'm thinking of moving there. Where's the best place to go to school and blah blah blah. And Mount Pleasant's always at the top of if you're going to go anywhere in the Charleston area.
That's why
Mount
we're
Pleasant
here.
has
I'm
the
married
best
to a
schools.
school teacher. She taught, well, she's not teaching now after her career, but she taught at Jenny Moore for almost a decade.
Oh, wow.
So I'm real partial to that. And let's don't leave out Oceanside. I just did
Oh, of course
groundbreaking
not.
out there for their new student athletic.
I was just by Oceanside, but the last thing in the news, I heard that Oceanside was gone, but now
No.
they're back on.
Oh,
They
yeah.
What was that all about?
That was an administrative thing about their charter.
Okay.
They're a state charter school. They're not a Charleston County school.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And they just won a state championship.
State
in
championship,
football.
yep.
So,
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I was out there
And I
last
think their
Thursday.
float came in second at the Christmas parade last year.
Okay,
Yeah, weren't
even
you a
more
judge?
important.
I sure
I
was.
thought so.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it was so much fun. I had such a
Um,
great time.
Kathy, what else you got?
Well, I'm going to talk about business for a little bit
Yes,
because one
please.
of the things that obviously the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce supports our local businesses is do you have any kind of insight or what's the word I'm looking for? Direction or ease of starting a new business in Mount Pleasant
Sure.
could be a little bit difficult. So we'd love to hear from you about the best way to go about it. Either I don't never want to use the word shortcuts, but but the permit, about the permitting process
Right.
and things because we want to support our businesses getting open.
Yes. Two things. One, we have a great economic development director who did this podcast.
Where is he
with me
from?
Last year, Matt Brady. We stole him from Goose
Goose
Creek,
Creek.
Goose Creek,
where
right.
my good friend Greg Habib is the mayor, and
Okay.
he's still mad at me.
Sorry, not
I
sorry.
love
Thank
Goose
you.
Creek, and I love your mayor.
Yeah.
He is one of my best friends. Talked to him the other day. But for one, Matt is there to help. Now, it is
Right.
not his job
Yes.
to issue permits and all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
But he can say, here's, and we have a kit, for new people to do that. We also have, and this is a big part of my State of the Town address that's all video, by the way. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
only
great. You
5
did really
minutes.
well.
It's only 5
You
minutes.
did a great job.
The new one will have our OPAL. That's an acronym for something, online permitting assistance.
Oh,
something,
is
all
that
of
new?
that. Yeah, it's new.
Okay, I was going to say I don't
And
think
it is a one-stop digital shop to help you with all your permits and all
you
of
go.
those type things.
that
So
is
we're
exactly what we
very
need.
busy,
That's amazing.
business-friendly.
So keep an eye on that.
Way to go, Matt Brady.
OPAL.
Yes.
So we're able, when you're looking to start your new business, everything will be available for you in one spot on the Mount Pleasant website. That's awesome.
Right, permitting and all of that. The other thing too is the attitude that you have about business. How many ribbon cuttings does the town do with the
100?
chamber? We do a lot, and we won't talk about the one take will aspect of that. I'm under pressure to get it in one take. every
Right.
time.
Uh-huh.
Right off
Yeah,
the
but you
cuff.
do a fantastic
Yep.
job.
One take, Will.
Almost. Thank you.
Well,
But I
and
love
Rebecca's
it.
got it nailed.
No,
she
she's good.
doesn't screw anything
Rebecca's
up anymore.
Good.
Yeah.
She never did.
No, she's
No.
Rebecca
I-
Imholtz, our director of the chamber, does all these ribbon cuttings, and I mean she's got that down to a
It
T.
is. I will say this. I've seen others and been other places. Ours is a well-oiled machine. The town and the chamber, it's seamless.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. But those are important. You can say ribbon cuttings are symbolic, but they show we are glad you're here and we support you. And we put it out. We have 70,000 followers on Facebook, and the chamber's got it. But we do that. The other thing we did is we had this one region roadmap commission, and I was on it, and it was business leaders and government leaders, through the chamber, the Charleston Metro Chamber, and the Charleston Regional Development Alliance, and Mount Pleasant has a seat at that table as well. And I was on that, and we charted the sort of future for economic development for the whole region, because it's better to do it as a region.
Oh yeah.
And the lead technology agent in that is the Charleston, is a Harbor Entrepreneur Center, not Charleston, but Harbor Entrepreneur Center. And they landed in Mount Pleasant, and it's a public-private partnership. The town put money in it. And now there are like 109 businesses related to that.
That's wild.
They are full, but people are moving in and moving out all the time
Sure.
as they grow and everything. And people can say, well, what's the return of investment on that to the town? Well, what's the return of investment on an art center or a playground or a
Happiness,
senior center?
success,
It's the
vibrant
important-
community.
It's a vibrant community, and it shows the community we care about this, and we care about startups. And Mount Pleasant is not going to get the Boeings and the Volvos. We know
There's
not.
no space for them.
There's no space. We're going to get these kind of startups and everything. And I think it's very important that the Harbor Entrepreneur Center is in Mount Pleasant and is the lead agent for the whole region for technology development.
They just started too, didn't
Yeah.
they? How long ago? A couple of years,
I think
maybe?
they've been there less than 2 years.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
109
because we were looking at the possibility of having our offices there at one time before we had our current offices, and so that was all around the same time.
Yeah. They're doing amazing things over there.
Yeah.
So then that kind of makes my marketing head go a little bit crazy. But so are we marketing to other regions by chance? Are we doing any kind of outreach to where and how?
We are doing it, and keep in mind for our region, it is a team approach between Charleston County Economic Development and the Charleston Regional Development Alliance, who got the Boeings and the Mercedes and the Volvos here, and 50,000 jobs in 20-something years. We cannot compete with CRDA traveling the world, doing trade shows in London, Paris, Munich,
I was curious.
in Asia. We can't compete with that, nor should we. But we can market ourselves somewhat regionally, but we don't want to step over each other. So we're putting our best foot forward. We make sure that we do everything we can and position ourselves. And we buy ads and do that type thing too. But we are not trying to outcompete the county and the region for that. For the other reason is we have a very narrowly defined, let's just say, you're in retail. I don't want to say retail is easy in Mount Pleasant, but we aren't hurting because of our demographics.
Right.
There's $3 billion in retail sales in Mount Pleasant a year. $3 billion.
As long as most of that comes
And
to
you're
me,
half
I'm
Town
good.
centers,
Thank
at least
you.
a percent of that.
You've seen nationally
I agree
in
with you.
restaurants and all
I
that,
agree
they
with you.
love our demographics. They love our low crime. They love everything that we have in Mount Pleasant. So we're not just out there going, oh, we need I think we need more than one Waffle House. That is one of the biggest failures of my time in elected office.
I'm sorry.
We have 20 Starbucks and one Waffle House. We need 5, and that type thing. And we lost Cracker Barrel.
Speaking of, we lost Cracker Barrel.
Years ago. So, but we do that. And the other thing is we have the Mount Pleasant Made.
Yes.
That's our brand.
Yes. What's that all about?
We market and produce that we, Mount Pleasant, are and we may be different than Charleston and North Charleston, but we are Mount Pleasant. We have a vibrant economy. We have vibrant businesses that are growing, expanding. And the other thing, when you're a Mount Pleasant, what you want to do is when they grow here, you want to keep them here. And sometimes we lose people, not because they don't like Mount Pleasant anymore, but because they need a different type of space or they need more space or something like that. So one of the things that Matt Brady does is keeps his eye on inventory, on land and things like that, so that we can keep it going.
Yes, that's important for sure.
So, Mayor, what other, we talked about affordable housing, of course, and all that, and all that, and the moratorium on apartments and things like that. So what other, in 2025, do you have any other, like pet projects or any kind of focus, or any kind of projects or initiatives that you find to be just top of mind for the town?
We are working on something, and it's legal and contractual, which will be a major green space thing for us.
That's wonderful.
Here's the thing about green space, and let me tie this into business, since this is really a business-oriented thing. I am a big believer in what they call the placemaking dividend, is that the age of people looking for smokestacks and business parks and three-phase power and pavement are kind of over. What people are looking for is good education, low crime, high quality of life, and the aesthetics of life. That you have a place, and that place-making dividend means people come through. And I've had, how many businesses do we know of, people say, I came here with my family, and I thought, why don't we move here? Why don't we move our business here and move our family here? I'm a big believer in that. And instead of looking for deals and for looking for discounts or incentives, a Harvard business school study shows they are looking for values, and those values are taking care of people, taking care of business, and taking care of the environment. And the thing about green space and the environment is you can't look down the road and say, why don't we put this money aside, and when that tract comes up for sale or when this happens, it doesn't work that way.
Wouldn't it be nice if it did?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you're planning on green space, and people love it's one of the highest rated things we get when we do surveys. People want us to buy and protect green space.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes you agree with that.
Oh,
Good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, so the green space, I live down 41, and we're talking about going through some green space as one option for the road systems.
That's exactly
I'm
right.
against that.
I went to the state permitting hearing and said, don't permit this. We don't need a road through that park.
No, it's we're talking about Park West.
We don't.
Yeah.
We do need to fix
Laurel Hill.
41, and we do need to fix the intersection. It's a safety issue, but I don't think they need to permit that road. Do the rest and leave that road out of the park.
Exactly.
So if everything works out, you're going to see a really big green space addition in Mount Pleasant if we can work everything out. Even if parcel by parcel, the ones we're working on don't all work out, we now have 1 mil of your tax bill is set aside where that money can only go towards purchasing and maintaining green space. And I think the public really, really likes that.
Yeah.
And yes, that is a business incentive thing too, that I've always said, the best selling pitch we have to any business is we are a town that is on purpose taking care of our people, our businesses, and our environment. And that's what we're trying to do.
And you're doing it?
And when I was a council member and we passed the it was after I was mayor. We passed the single-use plastic bag. I hate to say ban, but we changed that. Nobody went out of business. No, we didn't have these big corporations coming down saying, y'all don't like us, we're pulling out of here.
Yeah.
They said, okay, we get it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they bought into it.
Yep.
You brought up the fact that you were council. So what was your track then to become mayor, and what's your future track looking like?
Be very
I
careful.
do
Mike's listening
I'm
to this.
planning. I got
yeah, he's right taking
I
notes on
got
this.
a lot of time. You'll be
I
retired
could
by
not
then.
imagine being elected mayor I couldn't imagine serving a day as mayor without having been on council first.
Sure.
You got to see how it works, what the issues are, and all that, and know how it works. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I personally am so
100%.
glad I had those years.
How many years were you council?
2 years.
2 years.
And so I ran in the middle of the term that I was elected to, because I just felt like we weren't going to get the change that I felt passionate about without somebody of that mindset being mayor, whether it was me or somebody else. I have no political ambitions other than being the mayor of Mount Pleasant.
Yeah.
I love being the mayor. It's what I am. It's what I'm wired for. I don't want to be, I like being a leader of a town where you have your own Christmas parade, where you have your own blessing of the fleet,
gosh, yes.
Where you have your own Sweetgrass Basket Festival and all of these things. I don't want to be one member of a body of, 100 or hundreds of people and all that, because I like having a town that is our town, that is my town. And so that's just the way I'm wired.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So
we're nonpartisan. For those who don't know, people will come that have moved here. You're
Yeah.
a Democrat or Republican. I am neither. I am nonpartisan. And in the last election, I endorsed people of both parties who were the best, who had Mount Pleasant's best interest at heart, regardless of their party.
Nonpartisan. I like that.
Yep.
So town council, Mike. Did you write that down?
No, I've already met a couple guys there, and kind
Very
of
supportive of the chamber.
wrapping things up a little bit. I love how we're even becoming more intertwined with the chamber and the town.
Yes.
One example is we're doing all the ribbon cuttings now. Rebecca is officially taking that over.
That's right.
That's a lot right there.
And of course, Matt Brady is back as official town liaison, back on our executive board of directors.
Yep.
That's great.
It's great to have him there.
Yes. It's
so
great
helpful.
that the chamber has a physical headquarters now. That is huge.
Do you
I remember
think that was
back
something that we needed a lot. You think
Yes.
that
Oh,
was
I
the
do.
button that was
Yes.
pushed?
I
That makes it
mean,
legit. Is that what it was?
I am not the only one who has said this. I'm not going to call it any names, but when I first moved here, the first thing I didn't know anybody. So the first thing I wanted to do business-wise was to join the chamber.
Right.
And at the time, it was the Mount Pleasant Business Association.
wasn't even the chamber.
Wasn't even the chamber.
right.
And so I'm looking around. I'm trying to find it. I can't find it. It took me like 3 days to find it. Then I'm like, I finally find a phone number, and I call, and I think it was Tamara who answered. But anyway, I almost shouldn't have called her out. But anyway, we miss you, Tamara.
Yeah.
But I said, can I stop by I'd like to stop by and get some information on.
Yeah,
And they
her-
go, well, we don't have offices.
her
and
cute
everything.
Southern accent,
I'm like,
super nice.
how does the chamber not have a space?
Brick and mortar.
Or even a space in a space,
Yeah.
like at the welcome center, whatever it might have been.
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, I think that it's just one of many steps that we've taken over the last.
It leveled us up.
I mean, to be we call ourselves a real chamber now.
Yeah.
Like we are a big girl chamber, big boy chamber,
Yeah.
with our own offices, a great new board of directors, staff,
love it.
full-time staff.
Yeah.
And just for doing all these great things.
And for a town that does $3 billion a year in retail sales,
Right.
by golly, we ought to have
Yeah.
a real chamber, and we have one thanks to their leadership.
A town that does $3 billion.
Yeah.
You like
Yeah.
to say that.
We are a town. It's a mentality. I know we meet the qualifications of a city, but we will always be and consider ourselves a town.
Do you think anyone will ever change that, Mayor?
No.
Okay, good, because I don't want to change.
don't
it.
think
why
anybody
why
will
would
ever
you,
change.
unless you have to change it? Is there a way like
No, you don't have to.
is there like a law? No, you're a city. But
Yeah, no, there is no law of
if
what
the
you're
tax
called.
bracket doesn't get any there, like change it all.
No,
and become
and
a
there's
city?
no thing that says when you pass this, the census says you
Yes.
have this many people. There is nothing that says that. We're a
No
state.
kidding.
Oh, I'm so happy about that.
I know.
That made me really nervous. I'm like, if we
know.
continue to get people, they're just going to automatically. I mean, just the town of Mount Pleasant sounds so much better
We're
than
going
the
to
city
grow. We're going to
of Mount
continue to
Pleasant.
grow. There's no doubt about that. But the fact that there's no legal like button that has to be pushed for a
Right.
certain population. I, love
I
that.
absolutely
That's
love
so
it.
Funny.
I absolutely love it.
And then we're also working together on the business resource side of things.
Yes.
Too. The Mount Pleasant Made resources
Yes.
with starting a business. And then you said you were starting an app. There was
There's that app, Opal. It's
Opal.
a permitting.
That's right. That's a
thing.
great. Yeah, write that down.
And that's a great thing to go to. It's a one-stop, click of a button thing to help you with all permitting and applications and everything. Yeah.
Well, and again, back to the chamber for a second. So we would have new businesses join.
Yeah.
And then they would say, well, how do I do this? And we'd be like, oh, go to the town.
Right.
But now, since
Go to
we're
Opal.
doing so many things together, though,
Yeah.
we're sharing your information on our website.
Right.
You're sharing our information on your website.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just everywhere. It's
Yeah.
just so easy, and we don't have to send people,
No.
just go. We don't know. We don't have to say we don't know anymore.
Right.
We can say exactly where people can get information. And that just shows what a great partnership it is.
Yeah.
Because we used to get tourism questions.
Oh, all the time.
They're
Right.
always
Yeah.
get tourist question. Here's a tourist question for you. IOP and Sullivan's Island, are they under your? Is it Mount Pleasant or those
No.
are different
No.
They're
cities,
own,
right?
yeah.
Different
Municipalities.
municipalities, different towns.
They have mayors and councils. Yes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yep.
mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. All right.
What about
'Cause I
the
had
Indian Island? No, that's
Charleston.
Charleston.
That's
yeah,
Charleston.
Charleston
Berkeley
County,
County,
right?
but it's
Berkeley County,
Charleston.
right?
That's a weird one too, though. Yeah, but
Yeah.
we won't go into the different zones and stuff like that.
Well,
And North Charleston is in 3 different counties. It's in Dorchester, Charleston, and Berkeley. Can you imagine?
No, that's
I
So
too
you
can't
got
many.
different council elections when there are referendums on the ballot. Berkeley County's got a referendum. Why wouldn't it on mine? Because you're in Dorchester. It's crazy. Well, here's one for people that move here from other places.
Yes, please.
There are big areas right in the middle of Mount Pleasant that are not in the town.
Mike
what
and
I-
I were having a
Kathy
Surrounded
was
by
discussion.
the town.
Yes.
They're called donut holes.
I didn't want to bring that up because
When you come into 526,
okay.
and you get to where Johnny Dot 17 North goes
which I
under, that
actually
is
said about
not
this
in the
thing.
town
Yeah.
of Mount Pleasant.
How?
And a few years ago, when you were on Coleman Boulevard, which for decades has been the de facto main street
Right.
of Mount Pleasant,
Right.
we don't really have one.
Yep.
There's a big area right there where Broadway Street is. It comes out where Kickin' Chicken and where Coleman Public House and all that is a little shopping center. That was not in the town of Mount Pleasant.
I don't get it. So
I know.
there is maybe I do get it though. Hold on. In Tampa, there's a offset called Ybor City,
Okay.
and within Ybor City, there's a plot of Cuban land.
Okay.
Could this land be Cuban?
No, but the principle is there, and I've told people at the state level, because we are trying to get a bill passed that if you are completely surrounded by a municipality,
Yeah.
because see, everybody thinks municipalities can say we're annexing you. We can't in South. You have to apply and want to be annexed. There is no like hostile annexation like that.
So interesting.
So imagine if you were driving up I-26 and all of a sudden there was another state. You're now entering Georgia,
Yeah.
and a mile later you're now entering South Carolina.
Wow,
They
right?
wouldn't stand for that.
No.
But we have to deal with that as a city.
But
you know,
what
as
about
a
what about
municipality.
trash services and things?
Yeah,
Yeah,
water,
it is.
like, all of that.
Well, water is a whole different issue,
Okay.
but trash, no, we don't pick up trash outside the county. We have an agreement. If there's a fire, our fire truck isn't going to pull up, watch a home burn down,
my
and go,
God.
Of course
oh,
not.
Oh, my
dang,
God.
I
what
would
bad
sure
luck
hope
they're
not.
in the
Oh, my.
county.
But what about the donut holes?
Not going to do that. Yeah, all of that. It's the same thing.
It's so wild.
So where does their garbage go?
So, if you're
Don't ask.
if
You don't want to know.
I'm curious.
however the county does it, which I think they contract, for a private.
Oh, that's
entity.
so. And that's also
But we
the same
don't
with Boone
pick
Hall
up
too,
trash
right?
that's not. Yeah, Boone Hall is not in the town of
No,
Mount Pleasant.
it's
The
Charleston
fire
County.
station you
Right?
see when
Wow,
you're
right.
on the Isle of Palms connector, there's a fire station.
Yeah.
That is an all-in-all McClellanville fire. That is not a town of Mount Pleasant fire station. They are not in Mount Pleasant. Yeah. So our fire trucks could drive past another fire station. They answer the call and they drive past the all-in-all McClellanville fire station and go by and put out a fire, and there's a fire station right there. Now, there is mutual aid and stuff, but just the irony, that's what donut holes result in.
Wow.
It's not efficient and it's not great.
And what's the fix? What's the solution there?
As long as we have annexation laws the way we have them in South Carolina, there's not going to be a fix or a solution. Now, we work around it through agreements, like I said, for first responders and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we try as much as we can for the county's comp plan and zoning to match ours. So that, what if somebody had bought that land? What if somebody had bought Boone Hall? No, I won't.
Don't
throw
go
that
there.
because
Don't
somebody
go there.
will say,
That's
"Don't go
juju.
there."
That's
Yeah.
bad
Okay.
juju.
What if somebody had bought the old shopping center on Coleman and decided, what if the county zoning there allowed them to put a junkyard or a place where they stack up tires to
Right.
be burned or recycled
Yeah.
or something? That would ruin Mount Pleasant's business in that area.
100%, yeah.
But now that did not happen, and hopefully it won't.
Right, of course not.
But, it
But
could.
with the wrong leadership and wrong zoning and all, something like that could happen.
Is there like a mayor of these donut holes? Is there like their own
It would be the
leadership?
mayor of
Is there a
Charleston.
leadership?
It's
at
our
all?
county council.
County council.
Members,
Yeah.
who represent both, the people in the municipality and not.
Interesting.
See, every
Donut
time I
holes.
talk to him, I learn something new, and I've been.
Yeah.
It's almost 9 years now. I've known you, and it just.
Yeah.
It's always
Aren't we
pleasant.
fortunate? So I don't want to leave anybody hanging.
No.
Boone Hall is under a conservation
Yes.
easement,
Yes.
which Mount Pleasant helped happen. We took our Greenbelt money from the county and applied it to that, even though it's not in the town, because if it had gotten developed,
Oh well, it's really funny you say that because we interviewed Jim Westerhold last year.
good.
GM.
Yeah, he's a great
And
interview.
I'm gonna paraphrase him because I'm not gonna remember exactly what he said. He goes, but we were talking about traffic and things like that. And he goes, people complain about when I have an event that there's traffic.
Yeah.
And he goes, and all I can say to them is, could you imagine if this was sold and you built houses and condos and concert halls and whatever it might be? You want to talk about traffic
Every day.
every
good point.
minute of
And
every
and
day.
they only do that about 30 days.
Exactly.
And kept it as a fund.
Tops.
Right. And it's
you
not
just
that
get
bad
around
either.
it. You
Exactly.
know where it is. You go in the
You
left
live
lane to go
by
right
a
by.
farm. This
I
is
know.
the best part of living
I
here. is
love
that farm
every
and
time
all
I
the
drive
food.
by there. I still I say to myself how lucky I
Yes,
am
100%.
to live in a
Yes.
place like this.
Good.
Same.
And I'm never going anywhere else.
Lucky to have you,
Yeah.
Mayor. Thank you
Yeah,
very much for
absolutely.
your time. Is there anything else you want to touch on? Did we miss anything?
Well, no, we didn't miss anything. I hope we didn't take too much time. I never say no when scout groups want to come and meet the mayor and tour town hall. And so I had them there the other day. There were 9 of them. So I said, hey, this is perfect. Y'all sit up there like council and the mayor and make a motion and vote and second. And one made a motion and the other said, well, I disagree with that.
Okay.
And so they learned to compromise. And I said, that's government. That's how
There
it
we go.
works. And so at the end, I said, what questions do y'all have? And they asked a couple of questions, this and that. But one of them said, what's the most important thing about being mayor? And I say this with all my heart because I learned it from a mentor of mine. It's not being good on taxation. It's not being good on zoning or business. It's being good at loving the people that live in this town. Because if you don't love the people that you serve, whatever you're in, you're not going to be good at it. So you got to love everybody in this town. And, we hear talk about there's this side of town, which I won't refer to as that town. We are all Mount Pleasant, and
Yeah.
we've all got to love each other. And that's the most important thing I can say.
Love it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your service again, Mayor. We
I
love
appreciate
it.
having you. Make sure every year we're gonna have the mayor on every single year to
That's
kick
right,
off
our
our
annual
year, 'cause
report.
We have to. Again, thank you so much. The name of Charleston
Media Solutions.
Charleston Media Solutions. I'm going to have to write that down.
Charleston Media Solutions Studios.
Very excited about that. Yeah, they're so awesome to us, letting us record here. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Mike, thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank
great
you,
having you here, and the mayor. Always love to see you.
Always a pleasure, sir.
Y'all make it so easy.
Thank you so much for listening, Mount Pleasant. Until next time.